Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. We appreciate your time today. My name is 𝗏𝘓𝙘𝙧𝙣𝙜. I am joined by my colleague Ernst Lahey. I'm dialing in from Chicago. Ernst is dialing in from the Netherlands. Before we get started, just some session mechanics. I know you guys have probably attended lots of webinars. This webinar you're in listen-only mode. However, we absolutely want you encourage you to be as interactive as possible, and the way to do that is to ask us questions. We'll interrupt the flow of the session to answer those questions. We feel that that's probably better than answering them at the end, just so that we can address topics as they come up. We'll also insert a poll sort of halfway through to find out what some of your institutions are doing in the student comms world. And then this session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available to everybody that attended, and also everybody that registered and didn't get a chance to attend in the next couple of days. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start. Just a little bit about who we are. For those of you that don't know us, we're in the US. We're very, very well known in Europe. We've been in business since 2007. I've been actually doing campus solutions and PeopleSoft since 2010. I think Ernst's roots go back even further. We started as a consultancy, but we've really become a solutions development organization based upon our deep expertise in higher ed and our deep expertise, functional and technical expertise with campus solutions and people tools. Today, we're going to be talking about our communications platform. I believe, based upon all of the work that I've done with hundreds of PeopleSoft higher ed campus solutions customers, that student communications is at the heart of just about everything that an institution does or wants to do with its students. But I mean, it's almost a truism that I've found, everybody that I've talked to, that students don't read emails like we all do. Once we get out of school and we get into the workforce, email is the foundation for corporate communications, but students don't. I mean, I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she rarely reads her email. And so we conceived Connect to specifically address that problem and to find students, to communicate with them where they live. So they're on their phone, obviously, we all know that, but what apps are they using on their phone? Well, obviously they're texting. They may be on their LMS, if it's Canvas or another. They may be on the student mobile app. Modo is a partner of ours, but it's really any student mobile app. And you can see some of the other, what we call channels of communication where students live. And so it's our premise that the university's relationship with its student throughout the life cycle can be addressed with our ubiquitous omni-channel products, cloud product called Connect. And it was really built to be used by functional users across all of the departments in a university that are challenged with communicating with students. I'm not gonna go through all of these. There's another use case that's not on here, but that was mentioned to me by what is now going to be our first customer in the US. I can't say who they are. We'll make an announcement shortly because we're still in the procurement process. But we met with the institution's head of institutional research, and they want to extract student comms data from Connect and correlate it with other data to address at-risk students, to better support, perhaps even predict issues before they arrive with students. Obviously, addressing the equity gap, retention, so on and so forth. So I think that's a use case that you'll hear a lot about, especially with our first customer. I think I'd like to turn it over, Ernst, to you, if I may, and then you could go through your demo. Let me make you the presenter. Give me half a second. All right, my friend, you are the presenter.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Hello, good evening. Thanks, Hendricks, for the introduction, and thank you all for attending today. I would like to show you some of the features as they are available within our CY2 Connect communications platform product. Let's go. So Connect, as Hendricks mentioned, is actually a tool whereby we can actually communicate to students, but also to other types of users from campus solutions, other people tools environments, and or even other applications. And we can actually connect in multiple ways towards our end users, whoever they may be. We can actually send messages in batch. We can actually send messages in an instant basis. And very importantly as well, we can also send messages which are triggered based on the fact that a user does something in a system, and then a message should be sent to the particular student or students who need to get this particular communication. And be mindful when we actually communicate to students, the students have the opportunity to actually choose themselves to which channels they would like particular information to be sent. So students who actually are mainly focused on their LMS may want to say, okay, I would like to get my communications in Canvas. Others actually are more SMS perhaps. Others maybe WhatsApp or Teams or email or another type of communication whereby we actually want to send that information to them. And if they want, they can also actually communicate, or they can also actually put their preferences such that they actually can see and get the communications in multiple channels at the same time. So in this particular example, there is a number of communication channels that I have actually configured: phone, as you can see, Modo, Canvas, Teams, email, and all of those channels will actually receive messages from Connect the moment that a message is actually sent to me as a student or as another type of user. So let's send the message and then actually see what actually happens after. Okay, so just actually updating my preferences here for a moment, and then let's send the Connect message. And our batch notifications in Connect are actually making use of the notification framework in PeopleSoft for its templates. So when we send batch notifications, we expect that the person who wants to send this batch actually selects a group of people that actually should get this particular message. In this case, over 100 people actually should get a message about the fact that there is a first year event, or there's a first year welcome that we would like to send to the users, so to say. And here we have a template configured in the system that actually has a text, and part of that text is actually flexible. As you can see, there is the dear number one or dear %1, which actually will resolve towards the name of the person who needs to get the message. We can put in as many flexible fields or variables as we like in this particular template, and those are pulled out from the query that we actually use to select the people who should get a message. Now, that, if you're familiar with Campus Solutions, and especially if you're familiar with the notification framework, is no different than what you would normally do. But what we then actually add to that is the idea of, okay, now where should this message go? Should this message go to a specific channel? In this case, I've actually defined it as a force service towards Modo. So at least Modo will get a message from, will get messages from Connect for the user that I've actually selected. I'm also actually indicating that the person should also be able to get a message on other channels, should they have defined other channels. I've also defined that this is actually a push notification, so on my mobile phone, this particular message will actually step out onto my homepage to indicate that there is a message for me. There is a style of message when I actually want to communicate to, for instance, Modo or to Teams, where I can actually indicate different styles for my messages to make them more or less important. And then there's also some settings there for starting and ending. Now, if I actually run this process, then I can actually send that message. And while we're waiting for a moment for the process to finish, we will find that in a moment, the messages will actually go out to different people. Now, while we're waiting, let me actually explain something about instant messaging. When we want to, and we have a message we would like to send to a specific person, and or we actually have a message that actually is not batch scheduled and not related to a specific process, we can use instant messaging. And with instant messaging, we are sending a message here and now. We may still want to use a template, but in general, we are actually sending messages straight away from the system at that point in time, which could be something about the system going down or something about a particular event happening that actually at that moment in time needs the message. As you can see, if you look at my screen, there's lots of messages coming in because of the fact that I've actually got configured multiple people to be related to me, and therefore you can hear different people and you can see messages coming into the SMS and so on. Now, what I wanted to show for a moment here, if I just actually sort my inbox here, is I've now actually gotten messages from Connect about for now, 2 messages actually about the fact that I'm actually having run a process, because the process request that I did was actually also sent out to all my channels, but I should also be getting a message for the welcome message towards my for the user that actually has the communication. Why am I not getting it? Probably because I changed it to a different name. Let me just go to here, and then we'll actually see it over here as well. Initializing. Always happens when you have a demo, of course, that things actually don't work anymore. They worked 2 seconds ago and now they don't.
Well, what I can say, Ernst, at least everybody knows it's not a recording.
Well, so that's fine, and I can sign on to Microsoft Teams again. That's not a problem. Let me just actually sign on. Again, that's absolutely no problem at all. Then at least we have to actually sign on anyway, so let's just actually sign on again. It's not a problem. Yes. Next.
Ernst, if it's going to take a while, I could launch.
No, that's fine. Well, it shouldn't take a while, but I don't know if Microsoft Teams has a problem for me now, or I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to actually move over to another channel. It's absolutely fine. So, right. So we actually sent a batch notification a moment ago to indicate that actually we have a particular a welcome for people. And as you can see, there's actually an email coming in for me as well, just as there was actually a Teams message and there was a Canvas message as well for me about that. Now, if I just actually go back to my communications here, as mentioned, I can send batch notifications to a large group of people based on a template. I can send a message to a particular user or a group of people based on an instant message I would like to send there and then. But in most cases, people would like to actually send messages based on triggers. So for instance, let's say that there is a change in the schedule of classes, and you would like to actually inform everybody who is actually enrolled in that particular class. Then what we have done behind the scenes here is actually connected a trigger of Connect to this particular component that will actually trigger a message to the people who are enrolled in this specific class when we actually change the start time of the session. Sorry. So let's say that the meeting doesn't start at 10 o'clock anymore, but it actually starts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If we now click save, that means that this change in the schedule has now been saved in the system. And now everybody who is enrolled on my particular class will get a message on their phone or in their Canvas or wherever it is to indicate that there is actually a different start time for my class. So instead of having to look for changes in your schedule, or instead of actually having to just figure out in some way that your class has changed, you've now been informed in multiple ways if you had multiple channels actually configured for this kind of messages. And just to actually show you what it looks like on the phone, let me just actually flip to my other screen here for a moment and show you what the phone looks like at this moment on my end. So we're connecting to my phone here, as you can see. And if we actually look back here, you can see here that on my phone itself, it actually already mentions that there is a class schedule change here. And if we actually open that for a moment, we can see here that there is actually a message come in from the phone on the phone for me to actually indicate that there is actually a message from CY2 University. And the second message that I came in actually was the fact that my class schedule has actually changed. And because of the fact that on my phone I also have Modo, I can also just go to Modo for a moment and actually view my messages in Modo to see, hey, listen, there's actually a message there from Modo for me to indicate that I actually had a new message. Don't be fooled by the hour changes there, but that's because of the time zone difference there. But so Modo, as well as SMS, as well as any other tool or any other app that's on your phone that actually is able to receive these kinds of messages, can actually get your messages on that phone and or on your desktop or wherever you actually are at that moment. So if I just actually,
Ernst, I think it's probably a good point to answer a question that was asked, and that is sort of the opt-in, opt-out aspects of this. And the way that we look at it is it's really up to you. It's really an institution decision. Our first customer wants an always-on channel, so that a student who may forget to do it, who may not want to do it, you know, they know that they'll get a message in this particular channel. And I think I think it's Modo.
exactly.
They're a Modo customer, and it'll be always on. And then the others can be opt-in. So I think that's probably something to talk about.
Exactly. Yes. So absolutely. Thank you for that. So we give users, students, and others the opportunity to actually set their preferences and actually define the channels. But as an institution, you also have the opportunity to indicate that particular messages should always be sent to one channel, as mentioned, and or should be sent to multiple channels, including at least a for service where you actually want particular information to go. So as an institution, you're always in charge of where messages are going. You may actually take into account the considerations of the user preferences, but you can also indicate that there are particular messages that always should go to, for instance, Modo. Now for Modo as such, we have multiple options. We have the fact that we can actually send messages to Modo. We're also capable of managing the groups that are actually existent in Modo. So if you're a Modo customer and you're using groups to communicate to students, we can actually fill your groups, synchronize your groups, and make sure that your groups get messages in Modo so that the group in Modo actually gets the message in Modo. And we're also able to actually communicate to the user directly in Modo to actually keep the users that are in Modo up to date. I wanted to talk about something else as well. So in some cases, messages that you send are actually deemed to be private, and they shouldn't actually arrive directly on your phone, for instance, or your laptop, or wherever you actually get your messages, but they should actually give you the option to see that there is a message, and then give you, at the time you want it, the opportunity to actually look at the message. Now, let's actually disperse some money for some student here. So I'm actually dispersing, which I would normally, of course, do in batch, but in this context, I'm going to disperse 8 manually to a student, and I would like to inform the student about that, because this is an exception scenario, and therefore we would like to actually be sure that the student, as quickly as possible, gets a message to tell him that the disbursement has been made. So now the moment that I actually disperse this money, the message actually goes out to John Brown to say, hey, listen, there is actually a message for you. Now, as you can see, Teams is back up. Teams had a hiccup, I guess. And Teams actually now has a message here saying, hey, listen, there's a financial aid disbursement. It doesn't tell me what it is that my message is, but I can at least actually now click on my link and actually go to this particular message. So I click on my message, I go to PeopleSoft, I actually sign on to my own inbox, and in my own inbox, which is only available to me, and I was already signed on to PeopleSoft, and that's why it actually opened already on the nice message box here. It actually gives me the option to actually read in my inbox that there is a message from CY2 University and that they actually just have given me $500. So in case of messages which are actually deemed to be private, that you would like to actually make sure that people only read those at the time they want to, you can actually send the message as you saw here. It actually is just a link, and then through that link they actually go into PeopleSoft, either sign in if they're not signed in yet, and then go straight to this page, or they go straight to the page if they're already signed on anyway. And in PeopleSoft, we're actually keeping track of the messages that we're sending. So we give the student the ability to read the messages when they're actually in PeopleSoft as well. And this is a combination of the messages that we send, but it could also be extended with, for instance, messages that you send through the communication generation process or the notification process. So one-stop shop for your inbox, for your messages that you're sending to students. And nice as well is the fact that, and this comes back to Hendrik's comment about a customer that actually would like to check how well messages are being read and use the data about the reading of the message towards other channels to actually check if the student actually is still engaged with the institution. If we actually open a message like this, for instance, the moment that we open the message, we can store in PeopleSoft, or we store that the message has been read, but we also actually track how many seconds the person has the page open for. So if you get a fairly long email or a fairly long message from the institution and you only open the page for 2 seconds, we assume you haven't really read the message. But by now, I should have been able to read the 5-6 message lines that are here. So now I can safely assume that this person has really not only opened the box and actually looked at the message, but also read the message. So we're tracking very clearly, if you want to at least, what people are actually opening for messages and if they're actually reading the message as such.
We believe, I'm just going to interrupt for a couple of things. One, we believe that this is going to be really important so that universities aren't getting like a false positive. So somebody may have opened a message, but it was only opened really briefly. Well, that may not, you may not want to indicate that the message has been read. And whether the message is read or not is probably the more important than it's open. So we believe that this timing aspect could be really important. Ernst, there's a question here about batch notifications and using choices and sub templates in batch notifications. Can we do that? Can we use sub templates in the batch? I'm not quite sure.
I'm going to say.
Oh, can we all, then let's move on. Then the other question is from the same person, from Emily. Can we also see if a student has deleted an email?
If they deleted an email, the answer is no. We can actually see what they do in Campus Solutions, and we have some capabilities as far as what other CRM systems have as well in regards to email. But if they just delete it, I don't. Let's say I'm going to say this differently. I don't know for sure. We could ask, but I have no answer to that. Maybe Marcus has, but otherwise I don't have, to be honest.
Marcus, do you want to jump in? Marcus Kuda is the principal architect that built this system.
I'm not sure Marcus can jump in at the moment.
That's all right. And then we have another question. How easy is it to create a trigger?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. The answer is super simple. We actually create boilerplate code, or we have created boilerplate code, and the number of lines of people code that we write for these kinds of triggers is normally about 2 or 3. So we actually have all the code in place to send the message, and we use the event mapping framework of Campus Solutions to actually link loosely coupled to a component in PeopleSoft, and then we actually hook up the code in the event mapping to a particular event like a save or a field change or something like that. And as mentioned, a simple trigger takes you about 5 minutes, honestly speaking. And
Great.
Because of all the boilerplate code, you don't have to worry about anything except for who do you want to send it to, and what text are you going to be sending, and that's it. So it's really, really, really simple. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Ernst. We can move on.
Yeah. Okay. Now I would like to actually show one more thing around the communication capabilities here, which is in regards to actually a interactive communication whereby a student actually asks for a particular request. In this case, a request to actually go to a particular conference, and he is going to fill out a conference request. And once he has filled out the conference request, he will actually go into an approval chain. That approval actually comes to a person who's the approver, and then the outcome of the approval will come back to the student. And all of that is measured, or is all actually sent through Connect, so that the two parties involved in this context will actually be able to see those messages straight away in the channels, again, that they actually would like to use. So I'm just going to actually design this form and fill it in. Whatever. So I'm going to go to the conference, please. Have I applied before? Yes, I did. And my main interest for my economics conference is microeconomics. And I'm going to save my message here, and I'm going to submit the approval. And now my other person, who actually is in my email box here, oops, pling, here we go. Already, maybe you don't hear all the plings in your head, but I hear lots of plings coming in. And here is my request from Connect about this particular person waiting for a particular request from me. I could also look on my phone. I could also look in Canvas. I could also look in Teams if I wanted to, but in this case, I'm just going to go into Campus Solutions, where I can't go with this browser because I'm making too many calls to different users. But here I go, and actually, here's the request from John in my browser, and I can actually say, I love you to go. Right, it's all good. And now it's approved, I can actually now get a message. And as you can see in Teams, at John's end of the story, where actually we are here at John's end of the story, John is now actually seeing that the approval has already been approved. So he asked for something minutes ago. Now, because I got an email and I got an SMS message, I actually went to PeopleSoft straight away to actually approve it. And now if he actually refreshes his page, he will see that it actually is now actually, it has been now approved, as you can see. So communication between, on this hand, the approver, and on the other hand, the student, is made very clear and very flexible, because again, both parties actually have the opportunity to go to different channels to actually see the messages coming in. And with that, Hendricks, I think it's time to actually go back to the PowerPoint to actually view some of the features of the functionality.
Yep, I'll go ahead and make myself the presenter and flip to. All right, here we go. So what I'd love to do is a poll. If you would indulge us, I'm going to launch this poll, and basically it's, how are you communicating with your students now? Multiple choice answer. I probably should have had an other in case we don't capture any of that, but I'll leave the poll open just for a minute to see if everybody can answer, and if they're doing anything other than, you know, email, text, so on and so forth. and then I'll display the results of the poll. Looks like we've got pretty good response here. Give it just another second or two. Yep, still responding. That's awesome. Thank you all for voting. This is I think really helpful, and the results will be pretty cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. More responses. Must be Wednesday. Cool. I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to share the results. As we suspected, obviously dominated by email, but then you all are doing a great job of communicating in other channels. So that's fantastic. Hopefully you're solving some of the thorny student comms issues. So thank you. Moving on, Ernst, I'll go ahead and advance the slide if you'd like to talk about the next few slides.
I was going to say, but I need to actually unmute myself, which is the new buzzword for the 2022s and 23s. Unmute yourself. Okay, so in the key features, if you look at the key features of this particular application, then from an audience point of view, one of the key benefits for us is actually really to make sure that the students and other users can actually opt in on the preferred channels that they would like information to go to. When we look at the functional people, which is actually focused on, they are the ones who actually can do the group management. They can actually define the templates for notifications. They define the message content. They can define where they would like particular triggers to be set up. They can actually send messages to specific channels as well, because we've now actually seen messages to individual students. But if you have a department that actually gets lots of emails, why not actually link some of those emails up to a channel whereby you actually can say, okay, emails or other messages for a group of people need to go into a Teams channel, for instance, or into an email box that actually is to be read by multiple people. Now, from a technical, yes, please.
Ernst, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I think there's a question that bears addressing now from Emma. For the email templates, are graphics and attachments possible?
Graphics is a yes. Attachment at the moment is a no. It's not the first time it's the second time now that I hear the question. So it's absolutely something we should put in on our roadmap, I would say. But at the moment, we do not actually have attachments in email, but we do actually have rich text messages, at least the ones that actually go to a channel that supports rich text. So you wouldn't actually see an image popping up in your SMS pretty soon. But if you're sending to a channel that actually allows for rich text, then we are actually able to put in rich text. Absolutely.
So
yes.
For email. So yes. And I just want to follow that on with a comment, because our personality, CY2's DNA, is to listen to our customers and connect. As I said earlier, is an outgrowth of listening to our customers and their comms problems. And so a lot of the features and functions that you see have been requested by our first customer, who will, as I said, will be able to announce very, very soon, and maybe even as soon as Alliance. And so I think that, Ernst, we've heard this now, as you said, at least twice, and so it's something for us to consider, as you said, on the roadmap.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and I do want to also come back to the comment about the sub-templates. If the person who asked about sub-templates as such is thinking about the templates that BI Publisher uses for 3C communication, the answer is we don't use the BI Publisher templates to create these notification templates. We use the notification framework, which actually allows for rich text editing online without having to actually create a full RTF template with variables. So if you're thinking about templates and communications, we're focused on notification framework, which allows administrative users, functional people, to actually create these messages, including the variables, in PeopleSoft online, and then actually utilize them within the framework. Now, talking about configuration and people, of course, there is a piece of the puzzle which actually is technical of nature, if I may. Can I just go back for 1 second? Yeah. Okay, so what our technical folks, they don't have to do much, but if you want to create an extra trigger on a different component, you will in the end actually have to create that new trigger. As mentioned, it's not complex, but it is something that has to be done then. Same would count if you actually would like another application to be connected to Connect, and you would like to do that yourself, for instance. In that way, we actually are able to have technical admins use our APIs to connect to another application that is already on the map today. From an installation point of view, we can simply say it's a one-time installation. You actually activate the core functionality. You make a number of choices as an institution in regards to which channels you support and what users can do and how you would like to actually utilize some of the key features. And with that, you're actually good to go. So installation is simple, one time, and actually is really easy to do. Now, Hendrix, if we go to the next slide, and that is actually the architecture, which is great to see. So here on this slide, you can actually see that Connect is a cloud service, which actually is running outside of Campus Solutions. Should you actually wonder about that? So we are connecting Campus Solutions, but as mentioned, you could also think of PeopleSoft HR, PeopleSoft Finance. You could also think about, for instance, Canvas or another application as a application that sends messages instead of receives messages. And the sender in this context, if we look at Campus today, is actually sending messages to Connect. Connect understands who should get the message, knows what the preferences are of the people who actually need to get the messages, and then sends out information to, for instance, Slack, to Teams, to WhatsApp, to SMS, to Modo, Canvas, and or connect to a chatbot to actually have connection with a chatbot in there. Notifications, as mentioned, very important, but also, for instance, outcomes of processes. So if you are a user who runs processes which actually take a long time, you don't want to wait for the result while you're in Campus Solutions, why not actually let the message actually send a message when your process is finished? And that message then can go to any of the channels that you see over here, so that you can actually respond to the outcome of the process where you are and in the tool that you're then at that point using, so to say. Thanks. Can we go to the next slide? So, as mentioned, setup, we are focused on setup through front end of the application because we believe that it is very important that people are able to see what the setup looks like, but also that functional folks can actually do the setup themselves. So in our setup, we have some custom application for configuration for applications that require extra configuration or that have the ability to have extra functionality, like Modo, where we talked about groups, where we talked about the user directory. We actually have the ability to create the notification templates where we want to. We don't have to, but we can. We have the ability to do group management, as mentioned, whereby we can actually utilize groups to send messages to a larger group of people by defining the group and then selecting people on the basis of that group. As mentioned, students or other users can actually use self-service to manage their own preferences on where they would like to get their communication, and you as an institution have a threshold on that to indicate what actually you feel is possible for them to opt in or opt out on. Channel configuration is a front-end task, and very importantly as well, in case you want to actually save messages, you can. So normally we actually don't store messages for you because we actually believe that the messages are stored on the user's device. But if you want to keep messages also in PeopleSoft and or in Connect, you are able to, so that when you actually have important messages that you send that need to be kept for compliancy or for whatever other reason that you actually feel the message should be kept, you can actually save messages to either Connect and or PeopleSoft to actually make sure that those messages are not lost over time.
That may be part of the answer to the earlier question about what happens when a student deletes an email.
Oh, see. Oh, sorry. Yes. Well, oh, no, absolutely. Thank you very much, Hendrix. Yes. No, absolutely. So yes, so that's why I believe at least the inbox is actually pretty important as well. It's because even though students may not be in Campus Solutions day in, day out, at least they know that there is one place where their messages will actually be kept unless they delete them from there as well. And even if they delete them from there, we as an institution still have the capability of actually keeping those messages for compliance reasons anyway. But yes, you're absolutely right. The inbox in campus could absolutely serve as a really nice quote, quote, archive for messages that you get from the institution, even if you actually delete them from your WhatsApp or from your SMS or something. Yes. Thanks, Hendrik.
Thanks, Ernst. There's another question that came in. Are triggers considered a customization when up? Probably good to talk about the technical.
Oh, absolutely. Very good. And I can very clearly state no. That's the beauty of the event mapping framework in Campus Solutions. So when you use event mapping for your triggers, you are not customizing any component. You are loosely coupling the trigger to a specific component. And when your application is upgraded, nothing happens. Because the code is not actually connected to your component directly, but through event mapping. And this is exactly why Oracle built event mapping, to actually allow you as an institution to create these kinds of extra add-on people codes for a particular piece of functionality without actually customizing that particular component. So that's an absolute no, and it's absolutely something I would encourage everybody to have a look at. More generally speaking, event mapping, great tool. Yeah.
Cool. There's another question that came in. I'm going to try to interpret it, and it's, will this be in one communications overview and then in parentheses for employees? I mean, I think the response is the Connect platform, as Ernst showed in the architecture slide, really can talk to any PeopleSoft system, can talk to HR, can talk to finance. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just student communications. We started with student communications because that's where we saw the most interest in the PeopleSoft marketplace. But absolutely, Connect can be used to talk to anything. And as Ernst said, it doesn't even have to be a PeopleSoft application.
Yeah, and there is absolutely use cases for administrators of a PeopleSoft system to, as mentioned, get messages about processes that actually have been completed, and or get messages about students who actually did something wrong and where data analysis has proven that there is actually a problem with a student, or any other type of trigger that you would like to create in the system. So it's absolutely a tool which is, I think, ideal for students because of the fact that they have the choice of defining where they would like messages to go. But there is also absolutely a use case for administrators and other users in the system that actually also can get information about PeopleSoft outside of PeopleSoft, so to say, and in the tool that they actually would like to use at that point.
Great. Another question: can we create a group based on a query?
Yes, that's what we do. Yes, I'm happy you had the questions, because yes, the answer is yes. We actually create the groups based on the query, and therefore when we actually send batch notifications, we're able to actually use that same query to select the group. And in the context of Modo, we're actually able to send a message to the group, and a Modo can actually, users in Modo itself can use that same group in Modo itself to actually communicate to that same group as well. So yes, absolutely, yes.
Awesome. There's not any, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ernst.
No. I said, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. We're putting our money where our mouth is. We think we've built a very robust and functional application. We certainly were put through our paces by our first customer. Lots of due diligence, lots of demos, lots of Connect, running in their own environments. And so what we would like to do, and obviously no decisions get made now, but just for your consideration, those of you that are attending, we are absolutely willing to step up to the plate and do a zero cost POC. And I would be happy to talk to you about that if it's something you'd like to see operating in your own environment. Pick a channel, pick some use cases, and then we'll go to work. So hopefully that'll generate some interest. We look at this as a very low risk way for us and for you to figure out whether this is something that could really benefit you and your constituents. And I think that brings us to the end of the session. I do want to mention, for those of you that are attending Alliance, we'd love to see you there. We've got 4 sessions, Connect being one of them. I think we'll be able to talk about our customer at that session. But if you're attending Alliance, come see us at the booth. We're also going to be having a Monday night cocktail party, and we'll have more information about that coming out to the conference pre-registration list. And I think, Ernst, unless you have something else to say, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Heidi, can you end the webinar for us?
I'm going to say thank you all to actually listen in, for all the interesting questions that you've asked, and I hope you really actually like the demo and the tool. We are very enthusiastic about it, at least, and we hope you are as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the week. Happy 2023.